YouTube family. So since my planer video messing with the new planer, I have like done a lot in here and haven't really recorded much. I've just been trying to get this place like functional and just get some stuff done for the bakery. I'm trying to get some projects in the bakery for sure before tourist season. But one thing I've done that's pretty cool is I had this table saw sitting on that cedar chest. So one thing I did was I cut that cedar chest in half and I turned half of it into my planer stand. And I don't like that planer right there. And I have a lot of casters in storage, so next time we go to storage I have to remember to get my caster wheels. So I want to put caster wheels on that way I can roll it over here behind the table saw where I used it before, because that was perfect having the wood come out right there. And then if I want to do just smaller stuff, like running little stuff like this through it, you know, I could do it right there with no problem. So that'll be kind of the place it sits, but if I need to do longer wood, I could roll it over to here. Here's some other stuff I've been working on. Here's like 6 medium-sized boxes, and I've been working on doing kind of long grain wood, trying to just make them fancier. So those turned out pretty nice. The sides are actually in grain. That's oak in the middle, and then it's mixed, I guess, with just other woods like maple and cedar, but both sides are in grain. They're pretty awesome. And then I made these little guys right here to match, little mini match like stash boxes, in grain sides. So this is what I'm trying to focus on, doing more like just creative, crazy looking wood designs on some boxes. And then these are actually playing card boxes. They're gonna come with a pack of playing cards. So it's like gonna be a little just playing card storage box, or I don't know, whatever people want to use it for. These turned out very pretty. I have all these sanded. I have to hit them all with 220, and then all of this is ready for a design. I'm probably gonna put Smith Island on most of them for the, you know, the gift shop. And then some pepper shakers that I've been working on. 6 pepper shakers. The salt shakers I have in the process, they're gonna be a little bit different. Less holes, of course. And my idea for these are, they're actually going to be boxes with hinges and latches. So I think that's going to be cool. I'm going to try it, see how it goes. And then these other ones are just cedar boxes, kind of like those. And some pipes I've been working on. Some oak and cedar. Just little pipes. But what I'm really wanting to get into is stuff like this. I've been making this wood. This is black walnut and maple and oak. I can't wait to run it through the planer. And then all this is cedar. So it's got a long grain piece in it and then in grain. That's kind of how this is also. It's got a long grain, little thin slice of black walnut, and then the other ones are all in grain sticking up. One thing that gave me the idea to do the long grains, even though it's going to be against the grain still, I just think it'll give the planer, my idea was for it to give the planer a break. After every in grain strip, you have that strip. So I'm hoping it'll just give it a break as it's going through. But that idea turned out very beautiful. So I definitely want to run these through the planer today. And I also want to create more of this cedar ingrain because I want to make boxes out of it. And let me show you a box that I've been working on, and I want to make more of these, but I want to make it with like crazy wood. And here's a couple other pieces. Here's two other, these are just long grain boards. So this is what I'm focusing on. I'm trying to create my own basically wood designs and just make crazy boxes like those with the long grain. I just want to make cool boxes with just crazy looking wood that people will see it and just adore it. I just glued a back on this yesterday, so I've had it clamped overnight. That's one thing about doing all these glue ups in these boards is I do not have enough clamps. I have got to get more clamps. These have been the best clamps ever, these Craftsman clamps, but everybody knows that Sears went out of business, so I can't buy the things anymore, and I love these things, but it is what it is. So this is my new box. I still have to trim the back. That's actually a pretty cool piece of cedar. Definitely not perfect. It's got character for sure. But I've been making these boxes where they have drawers, but the drawers actually come out of it and it's like a tray. Because I love these trays. I have trays, you know, everywhere with stuff in them. So that was kind of my idea, like have a cool box but you could pull the trays out, you know, and use them as trays. Kind of hard doing this with one hand. Dang it. But here, that one's a tray. That one kind of leans because the front actually hangs down to cover that up. But yeah, just cool little trays in a really pretty box. And I'm actually planning to make legs for them, and I got some small little like drawer pulls. I'm probably gonna put 2 on each one. But yeah, and I have actually 2 more of these sitting here clamped. Here's the other pieces. So I actually have 2 more of these boxes ready to go. But the idea is to start making these really pretty boxes with crazy wood like that. Another project I've been working on this week is turning this bench right here into a router table. It's not really enough room to route a whole lot of big stuff. There's a little bit of room, but mostly just for small stuff like boxes and stuff like that. But I just have this where you can take the router out and just sit it right down in there. So I've been, that was my practice plate, and I'm actually going to use this, a thinner one that I planed down, and actually make a nicer one that actually fits. Just been kind of practicing with this one that I made, and then I'm gonna make a nicer one that actually fits flush into the table. So that's another project, and I want to sand the table and make it real nice, because this is actually really pretty cedar that came from that box. So I used it for a shelf. So I'm gonna sand it, make it really pretty, and put a finish on it. That way it's really nice looking with the long grain board, like a cutting board basically is a router plate. We got Nathan joining the show. Say what's up, Nathan, don't be shy.
What's up?
Alright, so today I want to make some more boards, or at least do a glue up so I can get started. But I want to show you guys like the difference between end grain and long grain. Here's like a butcher block basically that I'm making for Holly for cutting wax on. This is going to be like her wax cutting board or whatever, our project board, whatever we want to use it for. But this one is just long grain. It's basically, you can see all the strips that are glued together. So this top part is actually long grain. Then the end right here is the end grain. So then if you cut this in strips and then you flip these, you actually turn it into end grain like this. All of this is the ends of the boards, which is another butcher block. And so it was flipped and glued back together, and I kind of glued them, you know, just, what do you call it, erratically,
I guess.
So I cut it in strips, as you can see, and then I glued it back together with end grain facing up. The only problem with end grain is it's a lot tougher on the planer, so it's a lot easier to run the long grain through. So that's my plan today, is to cut some cedar into strips and glue them together like a big plank basically, and then once it dries overnight, I'll come back and cut it and flip it up. I can actually cut it to nearly the thickness of the board that I want. That way when I flip it up, it's the thickness that I want. So it's not as thick as that, because I'm not trying to make a butcher block. I'm basically just trying to make lumber that I can use. So that's what I was saying. Here's long grain, end grain mixed with long grain, and the same with this. And I want to focus on the cedar. This looks insane. This end grain looks insane. And also cedar is a lot easier to work with to run through the planer. So I'm going to be focusing a lot on cedar. And y'all see how much cedar I buy. So I have plenty to work with. Alright, so I'm planning on turning these two boards into a slab. So before I actually start cutting them into strips, I'm going to make them the size, I think I'm going to work with, basically I have 20 inches here. So I'm going to cut them into 20 inches. I'm hoping I'm going to get 3 out of this. Hold on, now that I'm thinking about it, I should make sure, because I don't want to waste any. So, alright, we got to tape this. So these are, they're like 70 inches, so
That's more than
60, yeah, I'll get 3 out of each and still have a little bit left over to use on something else. So I'm going to cut these in 6 actually, 20-inch pieces, and then we're going to start ripping them into strips to glue together. Try this again. Ooh. So that's how thick it is with just those 6 boards. So now I'm gonna start ripping them and actually making, I think, 1.5 inch strips. Alright, so these pieces right here are actually 1 1/4. So that's the size strips I want, 1 1/4, so it'll match this. So we're gonna set this guy to 1 1/4. There we go, there's our slab of wood. Nice. And my planer will only take a 30-inch piece. That's only 12 inches, which would be a very nice 12-inch board. And then of course, once I cut this in blocks and turn the ingrained up and actually add wood in between them, it's gonna make this board even longer. So I have like a 12 by, you know, something pretty decently long, at least probably about 24 inches, at least. So now I just have to glue this up and let it dry. Hell yeah. Alright, so this is the glue board I've been gluing my stuff up on. And check this out, Nathan brought me some coffee. Nathan's the man, yo. So having this wood laid down flat like this kind of makes it hard to get the clamps around it. So I've been fighting it and pulling the edge to the side and clamping it, hanging off, and it's just been a struggle. So I need to lift this up off the piece of wood so I can actually, once I glue it, I can just make clamping it a lot easier. So I'm going to cut this piece of oak in a couple pieces. That way I can use this wood for glue ups when it'll help me raise it up. You'll see in a minute. Alright, so now this is going to be way easier now to just lift it up. I can literally just put my clamp right there on top of it. It's got plenty of clearance. It's not hitting anything. So that'll make it a lot easier to keep my work flat and keep the slab way closer to perfect. Like this one, for example, this one right here, I was struggling because it's so long. Like, it's easier when the boards are long like this, but when they're shorter and you're creating a board with shorter boards, makes it a lot harder to keep flat. See, that board is not flat. Like, that's way less flat than I would want. Like, I can't even run that through the planer because it's bowed like that. So I would literally have to cut this in half just to run it through the planer. So that kind of takes away from my board, you know, because I want to work with longer boards. Now this board is going to be half the size. So, but that's what I want to prevent. That's way off. So this one is going to be a lot flatter because I actually have it on these flat boards, raised up, a lot easier to work with and control everything that I'm doing. Pretty much lay down as many as I can. It'll fit. And lots of glue. You want every bit of this wood covered with glue. And a disposable paintbrush, I like using these. Pretty much just paint the glue on there. It doesn't have to be overkill, really. You just want it to cover the wood, basically. Alright. Now we're just going to turn all these up. do the same thing. Lots of glue. Alright, so usually the last one you don't glue because there's already glue on this side. So now if you turn this, there's glue on there. But what I'm going to do is, because I always forget that, so we are going to spin this one around. That way both of those glue boards. Then I want to just have a little extra in there. So there we go. Grab my glue board over here to straighten this stuff up. This. Whoa. Give myself a straight edge. Get as straight as I can. And there we go. I'm just going to go right in the middle. Flat as possible. There we go. And another clamp. I guess we want to go to the edge there. Get that edge. Flat as possible. Oh yeah. Another good thing about having your work lifted up is you can work from the bottom also. Pull this out some. Dang it. I'm falling apart here. Back this board up some. There. There we go. Now we're just gonna move this over here, out of the way. Let me go ahead and tighten it down again. Dang right. There's a super flat slab. We're gonna let that sit there overnight. It's gonna be like very solid once it dries. It'll be dry tomorrow, pretty much 24 hours. It'll be amazing. So then once that board's dry, I will cut slices just like this. But those will actually be a lot longer and wider. Like this is only 6 or 7 inches, you know, compared to right there to 12 inches. So that's probably about 6 inches, maybe a little bit more than 6 inches. So the next board that I make is gonna be 12 inches wide instead of this, and it's gonna be a lot flatter because I'm gonna use this up here and make sure my board is as flat as possible. Because now before I run this through the planer, unfortunately I'm gonna have to cut it, and I really did not want to cut this, but I'm going to have to. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and cut this, run it through the planer, and also I want to run this one through the planer and see how they turn out. Just so I remember. Not that I would really forget, but just to make sure. Then I'll always have these to use. Make sure I don't use them for some project, not thinking. So cool, my glue boards. Got those labeled. Those things came out pretty. Man, that is awesome. And you can see where the planer kind of chipped that board right there. But it's fine. Pretty stuff. And I plan on making a whole lot more of it. And this is why I need a freaking ton of clamps. Because by the time I like do a plank of wood like that, and then I have a couple of boxes, you know, clamped up drying, I'm kind of done clamping for the day. But now I got to get back to sanding. Well, I hope y'all enjoyed hanging out with me while I made a slab of cedar long grain. I would really like to make a video of making one of these beautiful boxes with drawers and trays. Out of some wood like this and like this. I want it to be like the craziest box I've ever made. I just want it to be just crazy and beautiful and just kind of just unbelievable when you look at it. And possibly even turn it into a little game where you count how many pieces of wood is actually in that box. So that is a video that I would love to make, is to make something like this finished with legs, drawer pulls, everything all the way finished. Crazy stuff like this. How would that be? So that's my plan. I want to make a bunch of this wood, and that should be the next video. Thanks for watching, guys. Love you. God bless.